What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Bulls Latest. Your host, Matt Johnson here. I want to spend this Friday show going over a Bulls outlook with you guys. We are so close to the start of training camp, just a couple days away now. I want to go over 6 reasons why in today's show the Bulls could surprise people this year. We have Intro Monday with Annual Media Day kicking off to start this next week, and then the first official practice day for training camp is on Tuesday. So we are so close. I want to give Bulls fans reason to get excited. I want to give them things to look forward to this upcoming season and why the Bulls could turn a lot of heads and ways that they could do that. So kicking off the 6 ways here, I wanted to start the Bulls have, and they could use this to their advantage, but injuries as well as lack of an all-star. Starting with injuries here, they've already rolled over the Boston Celtics, Indiana Pacers, Philadelphia 76ers, the Cavs, and the Heat. The Celtics and Pacers, the last 2 conference champions, are almost in rebuilding or recovery modes this season, with Indiana's best player, Tyrese Haliburton, out for the season following an Achilles tear in the finals, and then Boston's best player, Jason Tatum, also likely missing the entire season with the ruptured Achilles. I've hinted at this to you guys many times throughout recent weeks here, but the Eastern Conference is going to be a lot more wide open than many think. Indiana also lost starting center Miles Turner to Milwaukee as a free agent, while the Celtics, in ownership and financial change, are down 2 other starters from their 2024 title team, Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. Of course, Kristaps going to Atlanta, and then Drew Holiday switching gears and going to the West to play for Portland there. When you look at the Bulls' schedule as a whole, games for the Bulls that were losses on the schedule may now find them, they could find themselves as favorites. The Cavs are still formidable. That's a team that I think is going to be the crop of the Eastern Conference still. But starter Max Strus is out for maybe half the season following foot surgery. So even them, you look at that organization, and they're going to have some turmoil there to start the year, as Max Strus is a big part of what they like to do. So when you look at some of the other teams in the East, who knows what the age and increasing infirmities, perhaps as well as Inui of Joel Embiid and Paul George, in Philly, one knows what Philadelphia is going to do this year. Who can kind of predict what the Sixers are going to be? It's very tough because Joel Embiid is very unpredictable. That's a lot of games where the Bulls could be on equal footing, though, just looking at the Sixers and the Heat. And, I think New York is going to be very solid, but there's a lot of injuries on this side of the conference that could keep the Bulls in contention. And I just think that the other aspect of this segment, this first piece here, the Bulls' lack of an all-star, this is generally not a good thing when you have a lack of a star player, though Kobe White, also considering the perimeter injuries to previous all-stars in the conference, as well as the departures of guys like Dame, Jimmy Butler, DeMar DeRozan, and Zach LaVine, has a really good chance to stand out this season. Kobe White coming off his best year as a Bull, especially if White can push his scoring average closer to 25 points a game this upcoming season, which also is potentially easier given the way the Bulls play, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But the lack of an all-star can be a counterintuitive blessing for this Bulls team. The Bulls aren't resting anyone for the postseason. You have a lot of load management now in the NBA, and I think not having a star-studded lineup and a lot of hungry young guys could prove to have the Bulls win, and it may show them winning a lot of ball games early on. So we'll see what happens. Even if they can, not certainly make it to June, their guys will play, and that's the way to steal games, is that when you're not resting guys for later on in the season, you see star players like Kevin Durant and LeBron James and guys who kind of are getting up there in age, and even some of the other core players get a lot of rest throughout this long season, especially in the new NBA today. So I think the Bulls having a young, hungry roster could prove pivotal to them kind of winning some more ball games here. So kind of switching to the next set of things that I wanted to kind of pinpoint, the Bulls' depth and their playing style. I think their depth and playing style, for me, is the most fun part of this team. I think that the Bulls could surprise a ton of people when it comes to how deep this team really is, and then how Billy Donovan will continue to evolve the playing style of this team like he did last year, and how fast-paced that Bulls squad was, I think they're going to continue upon that this upcoming season. With the recent trades and some signings, they've accumulated perhaps a dozen players who've been NBA starters at some point. When you look at the depth of this team, I just think it's a very exciting bunch. If Coach Billy Donovan reduces the minutes, he can employ pressuring groups like Rick Pitino has done in the past. And I know Rick Pitino is an idol of Billy Donovan. I just think that Billy Donovan likes to kind of structure his coaching habits around what Rick Pitino liked to do. Hubie Brown also did something like that to a great success when he coached Memphis. A few of the better NBA teams with stars and thus top-heavy payrolls are outfitted with the rosters to match that kind of play. So when you look at the depth of this roster, I think it can definitely be a strength. You could throw a lot of guys out there. You could have a lot of fresh legs night in and night out. So that's an exciting thing if you're a Bulls fan kind of waiting for this upcoming season to unfold there. To go along with that, pairing with the depth, is the playing style. The Bulls, with that aforementioned depth, also have the luxury, if they choose, to keep everyone under 28 minutes per game and really relay racing out. They can race out fresh bodies to keep running. And I think that's what Billy Donovan loves to do. You saw him do it with a team, quite frankly, that wasn't as deep as this upcoming year's roster is going to be there. Bulls management has talked about mirroring the expedited style of the Indiana Pacers, and I think the Bulls are really trying to look at what Indiana did a year ago and really the last couple of years and say we have the pieces to be able to roll guys out there and play with that style there. More teams are playing faster. You see this around the NBA a lot more now. It kind of goes against, with the star players taking minutes off, but the NBA is such a much faster game now. If the Bulls can sustain such a pace, that's also a way to steal a few games down the stretch when, in the stretch run of the season, when opponents are urging them to just stop and they're playing way too fast and outrunning teams when teams have tired legs. I think that's something you can really, really use to your advantage if you're Billy Donovan this coming season. So, I think that's a really fun thing to look forward to in terms of that aspect of the Bulls game, is the playing style and how quick this team could play and how well they could do so. And I just kind of wanted to wrap up this segment in today's show. The prove it factor for this Bulls team to go along with free agency. These two teams, things kind of go hand in hand here with the Chicago Bulls. When you look at free agency as a whole for this team, just about half the players, and I've talked about this many times, just kind of what to expect rolling into next offseason. Just about half the players on the roster are free agents following this upcoming season as we're about to embark on, which suggests that there could be major changes for this team going forward. What it also tends to mean is that there's at least half a dozen players motivated to play and have good seasons. And I've talked about this a while back, really when Josh Giddey was getting ready to sign his deal and he was still kind of on the fence. There's a lot of players who have something to prove, including Kobe White. Audasumu lands in that group. There are so many players on this Bulls roster who have something to go out and play for and are hungry for, which could be really good when it comes to getting results on this Bulls team this year, if not only to remain Bulls, but also to make themselves appealing to other teams as free agents next summer. I think it does those players a lot of good to go play their asses off and then want to show themselves in terms of what they can provide to another roster and really get paid. These guys are trying to get paid at the end of the day. So, I just think when you look at a guy like Dalen Terry, he's also going to be a restricted free agent, but the main part of the rotation, like Kobe White, Nikola Vucevic could be dealt. I still don't doubt he's going to be dealt before February. That's a guy who could be on the move, but guys like Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, I already talked about Io here, and then Javon Carter, even as a veteran, are all unrestricted free agents. You have a large part of your roster who should be highly motivated to really go out and ball. So, having productive regular seasons and thus enhancing their value to the Bulls and the rest of the league is a very important element to this roster. I think, honestly, it plays hand in hand with the way Billy Donovan likes to coach. I just think that with a lot of young players and hungry players, Billy Donovan can eat that up and really use that to his advantage. He likes to coach young guys, and he really has a successful tenure in doing so throughout these years with the Florida Gators and then in the NBA. So, And finally, I think that this is the most fun one for me. I know a lot of Bulls fans would agree at this as well, but the "I'll show you" factor. With 3 consecutive postseason departures in the play-in tournament, the players should be committed to making a statement about their worth, and this kind of goes hand in hand about that, going into free agency with a lot of these guys. But perhaps more than, I think Billy Donovan as well, and as a coach who really, he just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. You got Josh Giddey, who just signed a huge deal. Donovan, being in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, he has just one playoff appearance and not one series win as Bulls coach after 5 consecutive playoff appearances as coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder. So if you're Billy Donovan, you want to go out there and you want to really instill that hungriness into your guys moving into this next season. Giddey is now one of the highest paid players on the Bulls roster, one of the highest paid in franchise history, in fact. He's a prideful person, as is Donovan, and you figure they both would like to show their honors and rewards were well-deserving. Success in the games does that, and I think you're really going to see a motivated bunch. I think Billy Donovan, fresh off the induction into the Hall of Fame, is really going to try and carry that over into this season. So I'm super excited for this Bulls season to kick off. There are a lot of things that are taking shape in terms of the hungriness of this team that you didn't necessarily see a while ago. They have a lot to prove, and in a wide-open Eastern Conference, I think it's going to be a fun year. Let me know what you guys think, what you guys expect from this Bulls team going into this next season. Do you have high expectations? Are you trying to temper them? Do you think that it'll go along with some of the win totals and the numbers? Do you think those are set right? I'm curious to know where the vibe is with Bulls fans moving into training camp here just a few days away. So anyway, I want to thank you guys for joining me on another episode of Bulls Latest. As always, hit that like and subscribe button. It goes a long way for this channel. I want to thank you guys for your support and watching this show. Bulls basketball is almost back. I cannot wait. Everyone have a great weekend, and we will see you guys next time.